every sign's strongest hours today, and the one stretch that suits routine work rather than fresh starts, are coming in this reading. Welcome, and a calm good morning to you. These readings are based on your Western sun sign in the tropical zodiac, so listen for the sign the sun was in when you were born. Readings today are from your sun sign. The link below finds yours in 10 seconds. Times are New York time. The moon is a waning crescent moving through Cancer, meeting Mars at 1:27 at night, then squaring Venus at 8:11 in the morning and Neptune at 10:30 in the morning, so feelings run close to the surface through the late morning. There is a quiet pause from 1:27 to 3:45 at night, a stretch better suited to finishing than starting. The sun is in Leo and enters Virgo in 13 days. Saturn, Neptune, and Pluto are retrograde, favoring review over rush. Aries, your day favors warmth over hurry because the sun, your period lord, sits strong in its own sign, Leo, in your 5th house of joy and creativity. Yesterday, the moon opened in your 3rd house of courage, siblings and short journeys, so you likely felt talkative, quick, and a little scattered. That same 5th house brightness supports work and money now. Creative pitches, teaching, anything with your signature on it lands well. Mars rules you, Aries, and courage does reach you before caution does, which is why you can begin the thing others are still discussing. In relationships, Venus sits in her own sign, Libra, in your 7th house of partnership, softening how you meet people. Moon square Neptune is exact at 10:30 in the morning, so details may blur then. Simply confirm what you heard before agreeing, and the clarity you wanted returns by afternoon. For energy, the moon steps into your 4th house of home and inner ground at 3:45 at night, inviting earlier rest and a quieter room. So the day widens from yesterday's restlessness into something settled. Let your care today take this shape. Pass along something useful you no longer need to someone who does, quietly, expecting nothing back. The day is yours to shape. Shape it kindly. Taurus, today asks you to let your attention settle where it already wants to be, home, roots, and the quiet foundations you have spent years laying. Yesterday your focus sat close to money, possessions, and what you value, so the day likely had a weighing, counting quality to it. Now the sun sits in Leo, strong in its own ground, in your 4th house of home and belonging, and that warmth favors decisions about your living space and your people over decisions about a spreadsheet. The moon shifts into your 3rd house of communication and short journeys in the small hours, which supports plain, unhurried conversation once morning comes. Venus rules you, Taurus, and you build slowly, and you build things that hold. That patience is a real strength, not a delay. With Venus placed in your 6th house of daily routine and service, small repairs to your schedule tend to go smoothly today. For energy, keep the pace steady rather than dramatic. Your body responds well to rhythm. So let today settle inward, toward the home ground the sun is lighting, and say the encouraging word you have been meaning to say to someone, without waiting to be asked, offered freely and complete in itself. Move through today at your own pace. It is the right one. Gemini, today rewards the mind that stays curious and keeps talking, because the sky is standing right where you stand. Yesterday's moon in your 1st house of self and vitality likely left you feeling quick, visible, and a little wired. That same moon met Mars exactly at 1:27 at night, which means your drive and your mood are pulling in one direction. Use that push on the task you have been circling rather than on 10 new ones. The sun in Leo, comfortable in the sign it rules, sits in your third house of communication and short reaches. So a message, a call, or a plain conversation is your best instrument today. Mercury rules you, Gemini. Curiosity is your engine, and connection costs you no effort at all. So let the harder conversation be the one you open first. By early morning, the moon shifts into your second house of money, food, and steadiness, which is a good window for eating properly and slowing your spending. Energy runs high in a body already carrying Mars and Uranus, so give it rest it does not ask for. The day that began keyed up can end settled. Do quietly a chore no one assigned to you, and tell no one you did it. May the day meet you kindly and leave you a little lighter. Cancer, today gives you back your own center of gravity, and you will feel the difference before noon. Yesterday held you in your 12th house of rest and retreat, so a slower, more inward mood was natural. Work and money have quiet support. The sun sits in its own sign, in your second house of earned resources, which favors steady handling of what you already have rather than a bold new move. Ruled by the moon, Cancer, you read a room before anyone in it says so, and that instinct is your best tool in any money conversation today. In relationships, the moon squares Venus at 8:11 in the morning, so a small mismatch of tone is possible. Name it plainly and kindly, and it settles. For energy and health, the moon squares Neptune at 10:30 in the morning, a soft, dreamy stretch when focus thins. Treat that window as a good time for gentle tasks, not fine detail, and return to sharper work afterwards. The night's shift of the moon into your first house of self is what turns yesterday's retreat into presence. Let today's small act of care be this. Thank someone whose work usually goes unnoticed, simply because it deserves noticing. Whatever today asks of you, you have met harder days than this. Leo, warmth arrives ahead of you today, before you have spoken a word, and that alone opens doors. Yesterday, the moon sat in your house of gains, friends and wider networks, so the day likely carried company, group energy, and a pull toward people. For work and money, the sun moves through Leo in your first house of self, in its own sign, with Jupiter beside it there, which supports you being visible rather than modest about what you have built. Say the thing you have been drafting. The clarity you want by evening starts with that one plain sentence. Leo, in relationships, Venus in Libra sits in your third house of conversation and near circles, so a short, honest exchange with a sibling, neighbor, or close colleague goes further than a grand gesture. That is the clarity arriving. Warmth answered, plainly. For energy, the moon moves into your 12th house of rest and inner quiet at 3:45 at night, which favors an earlier close and a slower morning. The day settles as it began, with the sun steady in your own sign. If someone you know is unwell, sit with them a while and let them set the pace, asking nothing back. Let today be useful rather than perfect. Virgo, today favors quiet consolidation over visible effort, and that quiet is where your clearest thinking lives. Yesterday, with the moon opening in your 10th house of career and public standing, the day likely felt more inward than outward. The moon is in that same 10th house now, and moves into your 11th house, the place of friendships, networks, and gains, at 3:45 at night, so let contribution matter more than credit. Venus is in her own sign in your second house of money and resources, which supports steady, unhurried handling of what you earn. One careful review of a number you have been meaning to check is worth doing. Mercury your ruler, also moves through that 11th house of community, Virgo, and precision is instinct for you, quiet service, the shape your care takes. That combination makes you the person who notices what a friend actually needs, so say the useful thing plainly. The sun, today's period lord, is strong in its own sign, in your 12th house of rest and retreat. Protect your sleep, it is not idleness. Quiet, then, is not absence today, it is your working method. If you can, share food with someone who is hungry, asking nothing back. Walk gently today, and let the day come to you. Libra, today favors you being the one who holds the room steady while everyone else picks a side. Yesterday leaned into belief and long thinking, with the moon in your 9th house of learning and distant horizons, so your mind has been ranging wide. That range narrows usefully now. The moon shifts into your 10th house of work and public standing at 3:45 at night, which brings your attention back to what you are building and who is watching you build it. The sun rules your period from Leo, at home in your 11th house of networks and friendships. So, a conversation with your wider circle supports your work more than solitary effort does. Venus, your own ruler, sits in her own sign in your 1st house, and that grace is genuinely yours. Libra, you find the balance point in almost any room. The moon squares Venus at 8:11 in the morning, a brief hour where you may feel pulled between pleasing someone and being honest. Say the honest thing gently. Both can be true. Saturn sits retrograde in your 7th house of partnership, so let close relationships move at a patient pace today rather than a decided one. And when you step outside, set out a little water for the birds or a stray animal, quietly, expecting nothing at all. May today bring you one moment worth remembering. Scorpio, today favors letting your quiet work be seen without you needing to sell it. Yesterday, the moon sat in your house, 8 of shared resources and deep change, so you likely carried something private and heavy while saying very little. On work and money, your period lord, the sun, sits in its own sign, Leo, in your 10th house of public standing, which supports naming one thing you did, plainly, to the right person. Hold any shared money question lightly for now. It gains a clearer frame before the day ends. The moon moved into your 9th house of wider perspective at 3:45 at night, and Venus sits in her own sign Libra in your 12th house of quiet, so closeness today prefers privacy over performance. That wider view settles the money question. Ask what the arrangement is for, not who owes what. Scorpio, with Mars, your ruler, in that 8th house, you go deep where others skim, and your resilience is easy to underestimate, so rest before you think you have earned it. Seen without selling, that is the shape of your day. Give someone your full, unhurried attention while they speak, asking nothing back. Your free full chart is on the website whenever you want to look deeper. Go easy on yourself today. The stars are patient, and you can be too. Sagittarius, today favors the honest conversation you have been circling, and you are better equipped for it than you think. Yesterday, the moon opened in your house of partnership and close alliances, so the day likely had a companionable, other-focused pull to it. That moon moves on into your 8th house at 3:45 at night, which quietly asks you to move from talking about a shared arrangement to actually settling it. With the sun in Leo, in its own sign, sitting in your 9th house of higher learning and long journeys, your period lord is strong. You are Jupiter-ruled. Optimism is your default setting, and the honest search matters to you more than arriving. Let that show in how you handle money talks today, patiently and without rushing agreement. Sagittarius. Mars and Uranus also stand in that 7th house. So a partner or close ally may sound more restless than usual. Hear the feeling underneath the words. For energy, keep the day roomy rather than packed, and let the evening close early. The wide, searching mood that opened yesterday settles today into something practical and shared. Somewhere near you, someone is carrying more than they can manage. Take one part of that load off their hands, quietly, expecting nothing back. Wishing you a calm and steady day ahead. Capricorn. Today favors a quiet, honest look at what you share with others, money held jointly, obligations, and the trust underneath both. Yesterday, the moon sat in your house 6 of daily work, health and routine, so the day likely felt like steady effort beneath the surface, unglamorous and useful. The Sun and Jupiter both move through Leo in your house 8, the house of shared resources and transformation, which supports a clear-eyed review of a joint account, a repayment, or an agreement you have been carrying alone. Your period lord is the Sun in Leo, in its own sign, and that strength is on your side here. A calm conversation about numbers goes better than you expect. The moon moves into your house 7 of partnership at 3:45 at night, Capricorn, so the day leans toward listening rather than deciding alone. This is where that easier conversation arrives, in someone else's willingness to meet you halfway. You are ruled by Saturn, and you play the long game by nature, not by discipline, so pace your energy and let routines carry you. Today's quiet depth settles into shared ground. Somewhere near you, someone has been alone lately. Call them or sit with them, asking nothing back. Let today be simple. That is enough. Aquarius. Today favors the kind of honest exchange where another person's response shows you something you could not see alone. Yesterday, the moon opened in your 5th house of creativity, children and romance, so your play and warmth likely led the way. In work and money, the sun sits in its own sign of Leo in your 7th house of partnership, and your period lord is strong there, so agreements and shared plans get real attention today. Bring one to the table rather than deciding alone. The moon moves into your 6th house of daily work and service at 3:45 at night, which supports steady, ordinary tasks handled cleanly. In relationships, Jupiter also moves through that 7th house, Aquarius, and generosity from you tends to be met with openness. Say the appreciative thing you have been holding. For energy, Saturn, your own ruler, is debilitated and retrograde in your 3rd house of courage and communication, so keep messages short and rest between them. You think from an angle nobody else tried, and that angle is worth more when it is spoken plainly today. As the day lands, offer your seat, your place in line, or an unhurried hour to someone who needs it more, asking nothing back. May something small go beautifully right for you today. Pisces. Today favors quiet usefulness, and the good you do behind the scenes is the real story. Yesterday, the moon sat in your house 4, your home and inner ground, so the pull toward comfort and family concerns was likely strong. Now the sun, your period lord, moves through Leo in its own sign in your 6th house of daily work and service, which supports steady, ordinary tasks done well. Pick the one job you have been circling and finish it. Money matters. Ask for patience rather than speed. And if you begin the day early, there is a lift waiting. Here it is. The moon moves into your 5th house of joy and imagination at 3:45 at night, And Pisces, that is where warmth returns to your conversations. Compassion moves you first, and your imagination reaches where analysis cannot. So let a partner or friend feel that today rather than just hear it. With Mercury also in that 5th house before shifting into Leo later, your energy answers best to play, not pressure. So the day begins inward and opens outward. Let your act of care be this. Sit with someone who has been struggling to learn something and show them patiently, expecting nothing back. Carry this lightly and have a truly good day. Wherever today finds you, may you move through it at your own steady pace, treating yourself with the same patience you so easily extend to everyone else. The sky is never a verdict on you. It is a description of the weather, and you remain the one who decides how to walk through it. Keep what was useful from this morning, set the rest down gently, and let the day unfold one honest step at a time. If today's sky was useful, subscribing keeps it coming every morning.